We are back with a live look at the streets of Miami. That's Little Havana early this morning because the dictator of Cuba, Fidel Castro, is dead at the age of 90 years old this morning.
And they are celebrating in Miami. Just 3 days before Fidel Castro's death, 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick praised the Cuban dictator, saying the U.S. could learn from his leadership. But what is it that America's youth is not understanding about history?
Well, maybe they understand it better than Colin, I guess. National Review reporter and Fox News contributor Kat Timpf is here now to react. Normally, you're dancing in the streets of Miami Friday into Saturday, but you're here.
She's a big partier.
Just for you guys. Yeah, absolutely.
What in the world are the youth thinking?
It's crazy. Colin Kaepernick is supposed to be anti-oppression, protesting systemic oppression. You know who's pretty oppressive? Are tyrannical dictators in general. Fidel Castro would not exactly allow him to do something on the sidelines like he's been doing in the NFL with the protesting. He's anti everything that he's supposedly supporting, and it's not only hypocritical, I don't know if he doesn't know. He must know. He's not a dumb guy.
Why is this, though? I mean, young people of every generation, you know, you see the Che Guevara T-shirts, you see the Fidel Castro glorification. Why the reflexive glorification of these revolutionaries who, in their actual practice, turn out to be dictators?
Well, there's just this fantasy that, you know, people hate capitalism so much now. They want, you know, it's nice. Socialism is communism so nice. You know, you look at Fidel Castro, he's a man who executed people. Who have didn't do anything wrong. It's just because they're so anti-capitalism. But you know, again, Colin Kaepernick would have never been able to get away with any of these kinds of things he was able to do.
No free expression.
Right. He points out, oh, well, they invested more in education than they did in prisons. And obviously there's a problem with mass incarceration in this country. But that doesn't mean that we should go so far as to say, yeah, just because every bad, horrible person in the world has at least one good thing about him, that doesn't mean I'm going to put them on my shirt.
And you've seen firsthand the support for Castro, for Cuba.
Yeah.
What's that like when you're in it? I've gone
to these protests and, you know, say, you know, you've seen, you know, some bad things that have happened with communism and socialism, and they're like, well, you know, I think it's worked in places like, you know, for example, like North Korea. I'm like, feel free to move to North Korea if you want, because what you're doing right now, protesting, you can't do.
And look at these live pictures in Miami, the dancing in the streets about Castro finally being dead gives you an idea of people who actually, unfortunately, tragically tasted the awful repressive regime and then made their way to Florida. They're dancing in the streets, literally.
Right. Those are people who've actually gone through it. And if you really want to be in touch with people who are going through oppression, obviously Colin Kaepernick admits he's been a privileged person who hasn't gone through these things, but he wants to stand up for people who have dealt with it more than he's had to. That's a pretty good example of some people that you should be on their side.
Well, and we've got a live shot of Miami there, but if we were to cut to a live shot of the real Havana in Cuba, you would not be seeing that at all. The streets would be empty. In fact, they might not even know about it right now because that cell phone that you've got attached to your hip, does it work the same way over there?
No, absolutely not. There's no, I don't want to stand for the national anthem. There's no, I'm going to protest in the street and say, actually, I would like a different government than we have now. You can't do that. There's very serious consequences if you do that in these countries. And just ignoring that is ignoring the entire system as a whole. That's what the entire system is based around, is getting rid of freedoms for more government power.
But wait a second. Jay-Z and Beyonce went down to Havana, and they said everything was cool, and then it was almost, I heard Dana saying earlier.
I always considered the Beyonce and Jay-Z trip to be an advance trip for the Obamas, and about 8 months later, they did follow and took their girls down there.
I can't imagine. Maybe Jay-Z and Beyonce had a different experience because their lives are a little different than a normal.
Well, that's the thing about the romantic. That's the thing that bothers me about this idea. I can understand arguments for opening up and trying to bring more freedoms and capitalism, but right now, if you go to Cuba as a tourist and you pay your bill in dollars, like that money goes to the government, which in turns around and gives the workers payment in pesos, which are basically worthless. And so if you are going to go down there, try to give that money directly to the workers.
Yeah, absolutely. The government system that is going, people are not coming to the United States because it's awesome over there. Even though we do have that nasty capitalism thing going on over here that people want to protest. If you want to protest individual things about this country and say, okay, mass incarceration, this is a problem, this is breaking up families, do that, but to equate it to Fidel Castro, to wear a shirt with Fidel Castro and call yourself an advocate against oppression.
And also when some of these tourists have gone down there, like with Beyonce and Jay-Z, remember they get the pictures with the old cars, and it's they romantic, and they're like, oh my, and actually, you know, people that say, oh, I want to go down there before it gets ruined by America.
I saw
honestly.
And I saw on Twitter last night a lot of people, critics responding to Colin Kaepernick saying, why don't the 49ers, why don't they trade him to the Cuban football team, even though there's not one, and take his multi-million-dollar contract and have it taxed by the Cuban government?
Yeah, let them decide where it goes.
Yeah, you know, multi-million-dollar contract, you know, you get that? Capitalism.
So the reaction, that's the reaction on the unsafe space streets of Cuba. What will college campuses, how will they react to this today?
It depends. I would not be surprised to see some people posting or saying some defenses. Even on, you know, like you were talking about earlier, even on other networks, they're like, well, you know, some people are sad, and some people, it's like, yeah, people who have been part of the system of oppression, or people who don't know any better. So they're like, well, I think I saw it on Colin Kaepernick's shirt.
We're going to see you a little bit later.
Is that really how they talk?
Yeah, in my head.
Yeah, you do the great vocal fry imitation. We really love. Okay, thank you. We'll see you in a little bit. Reaction pouring in from around the world to Fidel Castro's death.
That's right. UK Independence Party leader Nigel Farage joins us live from London with his take on and what the administration needs to do, could do next under President Donald Trump.